Hello and welcome to the 7th Java tutorial in the series. In this one we're going to be looking at switch statements. A switch statement is very similar to if and else statements. It's just a different way of doing it, and sometimes you'd want to use if and else and sometimes you'd want to use switch in your Java programs. So let's get started. What we're going to do is we're going to ask the user to enter a number between 1 and 12, and those numbers will correlate to a month of the year, and depending on the number they enter, it will print out the month that it correlates to. So what we're going to do is do a system out print line to ask them to enter in a number. So we'll say enter a number between 1 and 12. Okay, and then as usual we need to create an int to store that. My num equals scanner dot next int. Okay, and so that will take in the number, and now we need to do the switch statement. So to do this we type switch brackets curly brackets, and inside these normal brackets we put the case that needs to be tested. Now in this case it is my num. Okay, now I've just thought we need to create another variable as well. This one's going to be a string variable, and it's going to be called month. This is going to store the actual string, so like it will store January, February, whatever, depending on the number. Okay, so switch on my num, and now we need to define the different cases. So case 1, so this is if my num equals 1. This is like doing an if statement, but in a different format. So in the case that it equals 1, we're going to set month equal to January. Okay, and then we need to call break. So if it does equal 1, then we perform that code, month equals January, and then we break out of the switch statement. This means that we don't have to go through the whole switch statement even if you've found what the case is. Okay, so in the case that it's 2, the month will be set equal to February. Okay, and then we'll break out of that. I won't do all of them, I'll just do it so that you get the idea. Case 3, month equals March. Okay, now you could do them all the way up to 12 if you wanted. I'm just going to do that. And now what I'm going to do is default. Okay, oh, spelled that wrong. Default. Okay, so default is called when none of the cases match. So this is like when you're doing if and else if, and then on the end you have an else. So if none of the above match a case, perform this code. So if it wasn't a number, if it wasn't 1 to 3 in this case, I'm going to say not a month. That would only make sense if I'd done all 1 to 12, but you can do that. And then we'll break out of that. Okay, so that's the switch statement done. And then what we're going to do to make sure it's worked is we're going to do a system out print line, and we're going to print the month. Okay, so it's ask for a number between 1 and 12, enter it, and then depending on what was entered, it will set the string month to one of these values, and then it will print that out. Okay, so let's save and run that. Enter number between 1 and 12. I'll enter one that I've got, so 2, and then it will print out February, which is great. So if I enter 3, print out March. Now let's enter 45. So that wouldn't work. So that goes not a month, because what it's done is it's not 1, it's not 2, it's not 3. So that uses the default and it sets month to not a month, and then it prints that one out. So yeah, switch statements are useful for when you've got a lot of cases, and so you wouldn't want to write loads of if, else if all the time. You just set up a switch statement and you set all the cases and you set a default, and then it works quite easily. So there you go, that's switch statements. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.